Someone in Trouble. Chapter 3. New Leaf. Come on, Stingy. The treehouse belongs to all of us, not just you, Trixie yelled from down on the ground. But Stingy, leaning out of the treehouse window, just clucked his tongue disdainfully at the other kids glaring up at him. "Nuh-uh," he said. "It's built in my tree, so it's my treehouse, and you can't come up here." "If that's how you're gonna be," Trixie shot back, "then we're just gonna take back our ladder." "Hey, stop that!" Stingy cried out with a mix of anger and dismay as Trixie started to pull the ladder away from the trunk of the tree. "How am I supposed to get down?" "Get used to living with the birds," Trixie jeered. "That's enough, Trixie," Stephanie said, and started to push the ladder back against the tree. "If he doesn't want to let us up there, we can find something else to do. You can't just trap him in the treehouse." "Come on, Pinky, it's just a joke," Trixie said, pulling back on the ladder against Stephanie's attempts. "Let him squirm up there a little." "I've squirmed enough," Stingy called shamelessly. "Let me down." "Not until you've sprouted wings and learned how to fly," Trixie laughed. "Trixie, this isn't funny anymore," Stephanie insisted, trying to yank the ladder out of the other girl's hands. They struggled over control of the ladder, and the towering tool started to twist and sway, standing free of the support of the tree. "Uh-oh," Trixie mumbled as the ladder began to teeter not towards the tree, but over her and Stephanie. "Okay, joke's over." Try as they did to push together, however, the heavy ladder was already teetering past the point of no return. The girls exchanged alarmed looks with each other. "I think this could be trouble," Trixie said with crumbling bravado. "Help!" Both girls quickly changed their tactics. Stingy watched out the treehouse window with his own look of growing horror. Parked not a few feet nearby was his car, right in line with the falling ladder. "Somebody help!" Stingy joined in with the girls' calls. "My car's in danger!" "Stingy!" Trixie exclaimed through her clenched teeth, unable to do anything else. High overhead in the circling airship, Sportacus's crystal flashed and beeped on his chest and interrupted his calisthenics. He glanced down quickly at it with a worried frown. Someone's in trouble, he knew. "Door!" The airship responded to his command and dropped down the hatch for him to step out on a viewing platform. Pulling out the spyglass strapped to his back, he quickly scanned the panoramic view he had of LazyTown, looking for what was amiss. He spotted Stingy leaning out of the kid's treehouse, looking scared out of his mind. But why? The ladder was right. Oh, no. Sportacus could see the ladder slowly coming down like a timbering tree on top of Trixie and Stephanie. He had to get down there right away. With a few hasty steps backwards, Sportacus shouted a command to his airship before leaping out into the open air in a swan dive. "Sky Chaser!" He free fell for several hundred feet, shooting down like an arrow, until the single-occupant pedaling glider caught up to him in a streaking arc. He landed flawlessly on the device and put his head down to pedal with all his might, barreling through the sky towards the treehouse. It would be close. He was only moments away, but the ladder was coming down with all its weight now and gaining its own speed. Robbie Rotten was on the scene, grabbing at the ladder higher up than the girls could reach and helping to push it back. He wasn't strong like Sportacus, though, and his knees buckled and his arms shook from the strain of trying to use his muscles on something so heavy. The ladder was still coming down, but its descent was slowed, and both Trixie and Stephanie found enough of the burden lifted from their smaller frames so that they could let go and spring out of the way. Robbie let out an undignified squeak as the full weight of the instrument rested on his shoulders. His legs gave out from under him, and he was forced onto his back, sprawled out beneath the fallen ladder with the air knocked out of him in a rush. Sportacus leapt out of his still airborne sky chaser within seconds of Robbie's collapse. "Is my car okay?" Stingy cried down to the group. Miraculously, the car was all right. It seemed that with Robbie's body getting in the way, the ladder had been stopped short, hovering just over the fender. Seeing that Trixie and Stephanie were standing doubled over but safe a few feet away, Sportacus quickly set to hefting the ladder up off of Robbie and setting it back up against the tree. Stingy quickly scrambled down to the earth to join the others. "Oh, thank you, Sportacus," Stingy said, and paused, looking down at the still dazed villain lying flattened on the ground. "And Robbie, thank you, too?" It was more of a question than a statement, and made everyone else look at Robbie as though noticing him in their midst for the first time. The man wheezed as he slowly and painfully sat up. "Robbie Rotten?" Trixie and Stephanie echoed at the same time. Robbie squinted up at all the confused faces, not quite glowering. Sportacus snapped out of the collective stupor first, and reached down to grab Robbie by one arm. He hefted the taller man up easily, and Robbie staggered and winced as he got his balance before shaking free of the blue elf. "That was a great save, Robbie," Sportacus proclaimed, congratulating the villain, but at the same time sounding somewhat mystified. Robbie tried to grin, but it still looked like a wince, as he tried to shake out some of the soreness in his limbs. "Yes, it was great, wasn't it?" he said none too modestly. "You couldn't have had better timing," Sportacus agreed. "Robbie saved us?" Trixie still couldn't believe it. "Wait till Pixel hears about this. His computer's gonna fry." "How did you get here so fast?" Stephanie asked, her tone just shy of accusatory. Robbie gave the pink girl a narrow look, a sneer starting to curl on his face. Didn't she just have to be the most suspicious and difficult child in town? But Robbie caught himself and turned his sneer into a smile, albeit a slightly caustic one. "It wasn't hard to hear you all having such a loud argument. That sounded like trouble to me, and who am I," he placed a hand on his chest, "to ignore sounds of distress like that?" "Who are you?" Stephanie repeated the ludicrous question back. "Is this some sort of joke?" Stingy asked. "I don't get it." "What's there to joke about?" Robbie asked. "Is there something wrong with looking out for the well-being of you noisy kids? Or would you rather I had let the ladder fall on you?" "Well, no, of course not," Stephanie said. "Then there you go," Robbie said. "I may be bad most of the time, but I'm not rotten." When this garnered some confused looks from the kids, Robbie quickly amended, "Well, technically I am Robbie Rotten, but oh well, as long as you kids insist on getting into trouble, there's no reason I shouldn't lend a hand where I can, right? Right?" He looked around at the kids and Sportacus, and tried not to fidget on the spot under their scrutinizing stares. "Right." Sportacus stepped up and said on behalf of everyone, speaking slowly at first but pushing forward, "I think it's great that you're turning over a new leaf. Right, kids?" "Right," the children reluctantly chimed in. "But Sportacus," Stingy couldn't help himself one more time, "saving us is what you do, isn't it? Isn't that your thing? After all, you're the hero of LazyTown." Sportacus didn't have an answer already prepared, looking almost caught off guard by Stingy's rapid-fire assessment. He smiled then and shrugged his shoulders. "What's important is that everyone looks out for each other," he said. "There doesn't have to be one hero to do that." "Does that mean Robbie's a hero now, too?" Trixie asked. "No way!" Stingy and Stephanie both shook their heads at that crazy notion. Robbie held back his gag reflex at the thought of donning hero's clothes like Sportacus. It would surely chafe and not look nearly as flattering as his classy purple and indigo ensemble. All the same, a smirk settled into the corners of his mouth while watching Sportacus's almost dumbfounded expression. Things were going exactly as he had planned.